Good day to all of you. Today I will speak to you about Coleridge's greatness as a literary critic. Coleridge is one of the greatest of literary critics, and his greatness has been almost universally recognized. He occupies without doubt the first place among English literary critics. According to Arthur Symons, Coleridge's Biographia Literaria is the greatest book of criticism in English. Herbert Reed, another critic, considers Coleridge as head and shoulders above every other English critic. R.A. Richards considers him as the forerunner of the modern science of semantics. And Rene Wellick, Rene Wellick, Wellek, is of the view that he is a link between German transcendentalism and English romanticism. Now, you can use all these quotes of these critics in your introduction or adjust it somewhere in your explanation or right at the end. Now, for Coleridge, he, as we discussed earlier, was a man of stupendous learning, both in philosophy and literature, ancient as well as modern, and refined sensibility and penetrating intellect. Coleridge was eminently fitted to the task of a critic. The neoclassic critics judged on the basis of fixed rules. They were either legislative or judicial or were carried away by their prejudices. Coleridge did not judge on the basis of any rules. He did not pass any judgment but gave his responses and reactions to a work of art. His criticism is impressionistic romantic, a new kind of criticism. A criticism which dealt a blow to neoclassic criticism and has been in vogue more or less ever since. Now, Coleridge was the one who introduced philosophy and psychology into literary criticism. In the field of theoretical inquiry, Coleridge was the first to introduce psychology and philosophy into literary criticism. He was interested in the study of the process of poetic creation, the very principles of creative activity, and for his purposes freely drew upon philosophy and psychology. He thus made philosophy the basis of literary inquiry and thus brought about a union of philosophy, psychology, and literary criticism. His literary theories have been basis in philosophy. So he imparted to criticism the dignity which belongs to philosophy. He philosophized literary criticism and then brought about a better and truer understanding of the process of creation and the nature and function of poetry. Coleridge also revolutionized the concept of imagination. His greatest and most original contribution to literary criticism is his theory of imagination. Now, Addison has examined the nature and function of imagination, and Wordsworth too had developed his own theory on the subject. But all previous discussions of imagination look superficial and childish when compared with Coleridge's treatment of the subject, that is, imagination. Coleridge was the first critic to differentiate between imagination and fancy, the first literary critic to distinguish between primary and secondary imagination. Through his theory of imagination, he revolutionized the concept of artistic imitation. Poetic imitation is neither a servile copy of nature nor is it the creation of imitation, but something entirely new and different from nature. Poetry is not imitation but creation, but it is a creation based on the sensations and impressions received from the external world. Such impressions are shaped, ordered, modified, and opposites are reconciled and harmonized by the imagination of the poet, and in this way, poetic creation takes place. We'll continue the same in my next lecture.